How's it going, everybody? This is Joey, back for another video here at the Underage Packers podcast. We have a pretty interesting topic on hand today. I wanted to look at the 2020 Packers team versus the 2021 Green Bay Packers team. And at this point, last season, I did a similar video with Alex Struve comparing the 2020 Packers team to the 2019 Packers team. And it's really interesting to kind of look at where they improved, where they took a step down, and the reasons for that, really. So, through 9 games so far, the Packers are 7-2. Last year, the Packers finished with a record of 13-3 for the second time in a row, and they made it to the NFC Championship game for the second time in a row. The 2020 Packers really had a roster that could have won the Super Bowl and they should have won that NFC Championship game, and they really would have if it wasn't for David Bakhtiari's injury being number one, but also really just the fact that Kenny Clark and Marqez Valdes Scantling were the only two players that showed up that day in January for the NFC Championship game. But that's besides the point. They had a really, really good team last year. So far through 2021 in 9 games, the Packers have kind of had an interesting situation. Some interesting events occur in all 9 of their games. Very eventful season so far for the Green Bay Packers. And I really feel like we still haven't gotten a full look of what this 2021 team is capable of. They've had a ton of injuries, just keep on piling up, and it is never ending, it seems. As you had Kenny Clark and Eric Stokes even just this past week going down. But then you also have starters that have been out for a prolonged period of time. You have Zadarius Smith, Jair Alexander, 2 Pro Bowlers most likely out for the foreseeable future. So I think once we get down the stretch, it'll be really exciting to see what this 2021 Packers team can do when it has all the pieces together and they can hopefully get into their groove. But anyways, let's head into this now, and let's talk about the most important unit, the most important group on every single football team, and that is special teams. Okay, if you've been watching the Packers for 2 or 3 years at this point, you will know that their special teams makes you want to close your eyes and never watch a punt, a field goal, ever again, because they've just had so many problems after moving on from Ron Zook in 2017 or 18. I can't recall exactly the year. They've had Sean Meninga at special teams coordinator, and then just recently this past year, they moved on from Meninga and went with an internal candidate, and Maurice Drayden. And it seems like each 3 of those special teams coordinators, Zook long overstayed his tenure in Green Bay, but each 3 of those have kind of had their own kind of problems, their own little nicks or whatever that they just cannot seem to perfect, get a hold of, and it is just so consistently a problem with them. For Ron Zook, that was certainly penalties. For Sean Meninga, I mean, he kind of had an unfortunate situation with some bad players that were really expected to do better, specifically J.K. Scott at punter. And now we're over to Maurice Drayden, and some of the problems that Meninga had are kind of carrying over now with just some bad execution, specifically on some snaps, on returns, especially punt and kick returns. They've really struggled to find not only a returner that's fast or whatever, they just cannot find a competent one that knows how to just fair catch a ball or not run backwards. It's been really painful to watch. So far, there has not been too much to note, not too many changes from Meninga to Maurice Drayden. And obviously, we got to give Drayden a little bit of patience. He's a special teams mastermind, for what it's worth, working with Adam Vinatieri and Pat McAfee back in the Indianapolis Colts days for him. But really, besides Mason Crosby and Corey Bojorquez, they do what they can do. But outside of that, everything is really just off. Aaron Rodgers, a rookie returner, which is kind of rare for Green Bay to put a rookie in that high of a position, even though it's a punt returner, and he had experience with that at Clemson. He's a 3rd-round pick, but last week he fumbled. against the Chiefs, it wasn't a fumble, but he's not telling Malik Taylor to get back, get out of the way so he doesn't touch it. He's running stuff back, and so far through 9 games, Amari Rodgers has shown maybe 1 or 2 good punt returns. Just really frustrating to watch. I personally would like to see Malik Taylor at the position, maybe even Randall Cobb, as he isn't getting much of a role on the offense. But this past week, after Amari had kind of 2 mistakes back there returning punts, Matt LaFleur went to Maurice Drayden and said, "Dude, number 8 has got to get out of here." And Maurice Drayden basically said, "No." And that was that, apparently. I don't know. We'll see what they come out with this week against Seattle. But so far, punt returner has been really hard to watch. And then also this past week, you had special teams missing 2 field goals early in the game, which you cannot afford to miss, not only against the Kansas City Chiefs, although their offense is pretty lackluster this year, but when you have your rookie or your quarterback making his first start, you cannot afford to lose those points. And they were both mostly due to the long snapper, a new long snapper, Steven Wirtle, getting his first opportunity, really messing up. He messed up on one snap, and then the other was for Corey Bojorquez on not holding it right, having the laces out. The classic that even a casual NFL fan will tell you, okay, you can't be doing this. The laces got to be facing the other way, outwards, facing the goalposts. Okay, I hope you all like special teams, because that was a lot of special teams talk. And I probably should have started with offense or defense for something a little more exciting, because I probably just lost half of the viewership here. Like, dude, why do you really have to be talking about Steven Wirtle? I don't even know who he is. But that's okay. Now we got the real diehards here that are all in for the special teams talk, and now get to hear me talk about the defensive side of the ball for a little bit of time, which the Packers 2021 in defense, as well as, like I said about the special teams, if you have been watching for the Packers football for any length of time, you will know that historically in the past 3-4 decades, their defense has not been that great. The anomalies being in 2010 and 1992 when they won the Super Bowl. And I'm sure there's some good above average defenses sprinkled around there, but the Dom Capers era, pretty much everything past Ray Rhodes has not been good for the Packers defensive side of the ball. And now, after moving on from Mike Pettin after 3 years, Matt LaFleur got to choose his own guy, and he went with Joe Barry, who failed 2 previous times as a defense coordinator with the Washington football team and the Detroit Lions. And here he comes here. He's got a lot of doubters. There's a lot of confused people on why Matt LaFleur made this call compared to some other candidates. Wisconsin Badger fans specifically wanted Jim Leonard, but he denied the offer. He wanted to stay up north in Madison. And then you also had Ejiro Evero, a promising young candidate, also from the LA Rams that Matt had a connection with, but he ended up going with somebody that he had a stronger relationship, spent some more time with, and with the experience overall. And Barry, for the doubts he had, and that even I had going into this, and then starting off on a bad foot in week 1, ever after that game in Jacksonville against New Orleans, Joe Barry's defense has been doing really solid, and I think it's mostly due to the credit of general manager Brian Gutekunst, who also has had a lot of hate, a lot of criticism from Packers fans this offseason and beyond, even before that, for the stellar acquisitions Gutekunst has made, not even during the main free agency period, but everything after that, getting Devondre Campbell, who has clearly been the defensive MVP for this team so far, at middle linebacker. He just joined the team back in June for a 1-year, $2 million deal, an absolute steal. And then just a few weeks ago, when both Kevin Keene and Jair Alexander went down with injuries, Gutekunst knew he had to sign some more corners, so he wouldn't be leaving rookie Eric Stokes out there all alone. So he signed Rasul Douglas and Quentin Dunbar, 2 veterans. Dunbar was cut, obviously, but Rasul Douglas has been doing a really solid job. And also in that cornerback room is, I think, somebody who's kind of been going unnoticed so far just because people are used to him being in there and they don't see him a lot on TV. They don't hear his name a lot. But this week against Kansas City was his strongest performance, and I think he's been doing really solid all throughout the season as well. But Chandon Sullivan, a really shifty slot guy that I love to see playing well. Undrafted free agent who's been with the team for a couple years now, and it's really exciting to see him kind of find his place in Joe Barry's defense and quietly playing some really good football. For the pass rushing group, you've had a lot of players suddenly start to get things clicking for them and have some breakout years so far. Rashaan Gary being the most prominent example, drafted in the first round of the 2019 draft with the Packers' highest overall pick in quite a while, with the 12th overall pick. Rashaan Gary was picked over in a really stacked pass rushing draft class, and he was picked over a lot of guys that many Packers fans thought were going to have better careers, and they've had some great careers. Brian Burns, Montez Sweat, those type of guys. They've had great careers, but Rashaan Gary, now in his third year, he showed a lot of flashes in his second year, but in his third year, with Za'Darius Smith out, he's really gotten his full opportunity to shine, and Preston Smith on the opposite side of him playing much better than he did in 2020. And then in the interior, Kenny Clark is, of course, playing some great football after getting some big money last year. And then opposite of him, or beside him, you have Kenny Clark, or Kingsley Keke, and Dean Lowry, who are playing out of their minds unexpectedly, especially Dean Lowry, playing a great role in the pass game. So I think there's so much to be excited about on this Packers defense. They've had to face a lot of injuries, and I think once they're at full strength, they can really be a dominant force for this Packers team that we really haven't seen in quite some time. I definitely talked about special teams more than I did about defense, but that's okay. Sometimes the bad stuff gets talked about more than the good stuff, unfortunately, and that's actually most of the time. But now to the final side of the ball for the Green Bay Packers, the offense, which was the star of the show for the Packers last year, the number one scoring offense in the league, absolutely dominant, unstoppable in the gold zone. And now this year, they had some high expectations. Everybody excited that Aaron Rodgers is coming back and he's bringing his buddy Randall Cobb with him. And so far through 9 games, they haven't been disappointing. Maybe a little bit underwhelming. Not bad, though. They've still been really good because Aaron Rodgers is at the helm and Devontae Adams is the number one receiver. But at the same time, it just doesn't seem like things are clicking or as fast as they were last year. And I know it's really, really almost impossible to replicate what they had going on last year. But I think most of it so far is due to two reasons. Injuries, just like with the defensive side of the ball. You've had David Bakhtiari out for these first 9 weeks and possibly tomorrow against Seattle. And then, Elton Jenkins missing some time. Josh Myers out for the season. Moving rookies, undrafted free agents all along the line, trying to figure all of that out. You now have Robert Tonyan out for the year. So they've had a ton of injuries as well. But another reason I think is kind of Matt LaFleur's tendency to just drift away from the running game in some situations, which is really, really just aggravating to see in some games where it's just like, we have plenty of time. We're still in this game, this Chiefs game, just this past week being a really strong example. It's being just like, stick to the game plan. Use A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones and run until they stop it. The Chiefs have an awful defense, but Matt LaFleur just didn't want to run for the majority of the game. So I do think once they kind of get back to letting the run set up the pass, marrying the run with the pass, an idea that Nathaniel Hackett, the offense coordinator, loves to talk about. I think once they get back to some of those key principles that made them so good last year, they could really improve upon some things on this latter stretch. last year for the Packers. Their defense, after not starting off so good, having some pretty bad performances, they really put it together their last 6-7 weeks of the season and put up a really strong defense together. They finished ninth, ranked in the league. Yeah, I think that number might be a little deceiving still, but they had some really nice performances in November and December. They held Derrick Henry to under 100 yards. They pretty much completely stopped Mitch Trubisky and the Chicago Bears offense, which was on a roll near the end of last year. So hopefully we can kind of translate that, kind of replicate that kind of second half final stretch jump for the side of the ball for the Packers. Hopefully the defense can keep doing what it's doing, get some key players back returning from injury, and then the offense can return as close as possible to their 2020 form that they were playing at last year. That's all I have for you today. This is probably one of my longest videos that I've ever recorded. I did take a lot of kind of memes, reaction videos for Twitter that I'm going to try to use during the game. Took a lot of sips of Dr. Pepper. So, I'll have to cut that out when I'm editing. Enough with the ranting. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, it would mean a lot to us here at Underage Packers. If you liked it, subscribe to this YouTube channel and follow us on all the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, even Facebook. We don't post on there that much. Whatever, man. We appreciate all of the support. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the game tomorrow against Seattle. Let's move on to 8-2. I'll see you later. Go Pack Go.